Hello and welcome to MidnightSilvercrafters.com. My name's Steve and I'll be your host. Today in this video we're going to talk about lost wax casting. But what I wanted to do today was I wanted to tell you just a excuse me, just a quick little story about how I got started doing what I do, which is lost wax casting and jewelry making. But I've been doing this a long time, and actually I'm 60 years old right now, but when I was about 17 years old, I ran off. There was a carnival that came up, and I ran over there and got me a job working with the carnival. And I ran off with the carnival, just running around, you know, being young and wild and traveling around. And it was just a little bitty old carnival, but they ended up in Tennessee. We ended up in Tennessee, way down in the mountains somewhere. But anyhow, the way I got into this was I was working for this guy. We had a game that we had. It was like a little trailer, and on the front side of the trailer was the game, and then half the trailer was where I got to sleep. I was lucky enough I did get a place to sleep, you know, behind that wall of the front wall of the game. But anyhow, the guy that owned this a whole little operation, well, we went to Tennessee. And the guy was telling me that was where he was from, and he lived there. So anyhow, one night we closed up the game, and he said, "Steve," he said, let's go take a ride." He says, "Jump in the truck. I'm gonna go show you something. We're gonna take a little ride." And I'm like, "Okay." So we got in the truck and we drove way through the mountains, and then we pulled up to this. It looked like an old beat out. It was an old garage at one time, but there's nothing around this thing. I mean, there's no houses, there's nothing. Just on a little old mountain road. And we pull up to this thing. It looked like an old garage, but the roof was caved in on it. The doors were off. The windows were wide open. And we got out, and I'm thinking, what the hell what is this? So we got out, and I'm looking on the inside, and it was just piled up with crap. I mean, there was like plastic, like folding tables running down the whole center of this thing, and it was just heaps of clothes. I mean, the old rotten, nasty clothes, it looked like just a big heap of crap. And I'm like, what in the hell? But he said, this is the wax house. I'm gonna show you the wax house. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? So he started throwing these clothes off of these tables, and underneath the clothes, guess what? Guess what was up under all those clothes? Exactly what you're looking at right there. A slew of molds. And I mean, I got a lot of molds, but this guy had thousands and thousands and thousands of molds. That whole middle of that building was nothing but molds. And he had, on one end of the table down there, he had a wax injector sitting on the end of that table, and there was some wax. And he said, "Well, this is the wax house." And I couldn't believe it. I was like, who would ever think that anybody would go into such a place like this and do anything? But come to find out, this guy made all kinds of jewelry. And I mean, this guy made so much money selling this jewelry, because he'd walk around at night and he would hustle and sell all that jewelry that he made. And that's how he really made his money. And I mean, he made like high dollar pieces. But he showed me this, And after, I'll tell you what, I couldn't believe it, and I was hooked. I mean, I got hooked on this the first time that he showed me how to shoot molds and everything, and the first couple molds I made, I was just thinking to myself, this is just amazing. This piece of wax is going to turn into metal. And I'll tell you, this is a true story, but that's how I know it sounds really crazy and weird, but that's how I found out about it as a kid when I was 17 years old. And, you know, after I got done running around and stuff, I got to thinking, man, I'm gonna get me some molds, and I'm gonna get me some wax, and I'm gonna make some jewelry, because it's an awesome process to watch. And I'm telling you, if you want to get into this, you're gonna be the first time you cast a decent mold and you pour it full of silver, and you quench it down in that water, and you reach out and you pull out that part, I promise you will be hooked the same way that I got hooked on this. And I'm 60 years old, so 17, yeah, we're talking some years, yeah, talking some years. But I just wanted to share that story with you. But what we're going to do today, we're going to go over exactly what it takes to do lost wax casting. And what is really going to shock you and surprise you is the fact that what I'm about to show you ain't really a whole lot of nothing. You're probably going to be expecting to see, oh wow, we're doing lost wax casting. We got all this equipment, and all, you know, you've probably heard you need all this fancy stuff and high dollar equipment and all that. Well, the truth is, this is really something that's really dead simple. And I'm going to show you just how simple this really is. Now, everything you're going to see today in this video is homemade equipment. Now, if you've been thinking about maybe getting into jewelry casting and doing some lost wax casting and making some jewelry, but maybe you thought, oh, you know, I just can't afford all this stuff. Well, after today, you're not gonna think that way, because everything I'm gonna show you for probably around, if you do it right, you can get started in this for $300, okay? Now, you're not going to need everything that we're going to go over, but what you're really going to need is just dead simple. It's so simple, it's stupid, okay? And you're not going to believe how simple it is, but yet you're not going to believe the results. And I'm talking about making a professional piece of jewelry. I'm not talking about making some homemade looking crap. I'm talking about making high quality jewelry, okay? And I'm gonna put some screenshots up at the end of this video to show you just a couple. I've got so many pictures of jewelry I've made over the years. Maybe one day I'll just put all that on one video and make one video of just nothing but different pieces of jewelry that I've made over time, from way back till today. But we're going to get started now. What you're going to need is you're going to need a wax pattern, okay? Now, you're looking at molds. Now, these are all molds. I made every one of these molds, with exception of a couple. But now right here, over here, you see all these ones. Now these ones are all cornstarch and silicone, dead cheap. You go to Walmart and you get a tube of silicone for $4 and you mix cornstarch. That's what these are all made of, and there's a lot of pieces of jewelry in these molds here. Now in these molds over here, these ones are all different jewelry that I make, and you know, I make and sell. But I'm going to be having a lot of these patterns for sale, okay? Because a lot of people don't know best place to get wax patterns. But if you see right here in this basket, okay, that right there, those are all patterns. Those are all wax patterns in there. But you're gonna need some patterns, okay? And then you're gonna put your patterns together, and you're gonna make like this little tree looking thing right here, all right? We'll talk about this in a minute. But to do lost wax casting, you need these wax patterns. Okay, so you gotta have some patterns. You don't have to make molds and buy patterns. You can, or make patterns. You can buy patterns pretty cheap for anywhere from $1 on up. So it's not much money to get some wax patterns to get started. But I'm gonna be selling a lot of patterns. So for people, I'll be selling them on eBay, and I think I might put some on my website as well. But if you need some patterns, I'll be able to help you out with some affordable patterns. But so now, if you're going to make your own patterns, what you do, you get some jewelry wax, which is right here. See that? Fire and Frost. Okay, now this is the best wax I've found, and it's the cheapest wax I've found. You can get it on Amazon. But to make a wax pattern, alright, now if you want to get some molds like this, you can buy some molds like this too on eBay. You can buy all kinds of molds and mess around and make some patterns, but you need a wax injector like this if you want to make some patterns. This is just a wax injector. Alright, and all you do, you stick that mold, you stick that hole on that mold right there, you stick it right on that nozzle, and you just push it back against that plate, and it'll inject the wax into your mold, and you got a wax pattern. But first thing, you're gonna need some wax patterns, okay? So step number 1, get you some wax patterns. Now, if you can see this, let me see if I can just set that there. Alright, now I'm just going to set this right here, but if you see that right there is what I'm going to cast, okay? Now, you don't have to buy all this stuff, okay? Now, most people say you got to have a rubber sprue base. Well, that's not true, and I've never have used a rubber sprue base. In fact, this is the way that old man taught me from the very beginning, and I've never changed it because it works so well. But you see what's on there, that's a lid off of a cornstarch container right there. And then I got a big round sprue button on there, and it's massive, okay? It's huge, but it's just a big chunk of clay. It's the cheap clay you get at Michael's that the kids you play with. It's modeling clay. But that's what you do. You get you some clay like that, and you get a lid off of a cornstarch, because if you're going to be making all these molds with a silicone and cornstarch, well, there's your lid right there. Take that lid, put that clay on there, and you stick those patterns down into that wax, okay? Into the clay. And then you just take one of these. This is just a plain old food can, 16-ounce food can, all right? And all you're gonna do is you're gonna put this can right over that, just like that, and you're gonna push it down on that clay. See, look, and that seats it, and it's sealed. Now, this is your flask. You don't need a sprue base. You don't need, like I said, you don't need a flask. You got your sprue base, you got your flask, and your patterns are in there. And all you do is simply mix up some stuff. It looks like plaster of Paris, but it's not. It looks just like plaster of Paris, but it's jewelry investment. It's casting investment. And you want to spend the money and get some casting investment. Don't try to do this. I mean, we're doing it on the cheap already. I mean, cheap. So you might as well spend the money on the one thing that you need, and that's some casting investment. But all right, so we got our mold. Now, we're gonna come right over here. All right, and we're gonna look at a few things over here. All right, now, what we got going on right here, let's see if I can back up. This is what we got going on, okay? I got 2 vacuum pumps sitting here, but you don't need 2, all right? You can do this with 1. But what this is right here, this is my casting cable, all right? Now all this is, I covered this. I got a whole video on this casting cable, so I'm not gonna go over building this, but it's dead simple. It's nothing but some scrap wood with a hose hooked to it, and there's a little valve right back here, a little ball valve with a handle on it. That's it. It's dead simple. And then you got this vacuum pump, and there's a hole. There's a hole on top of this board, and this is just a piece of gasket. It's a piece of silicone. It's like a cooking thing you get at Walmart. You get these at Amazon. They're like fiberglass silicone little. It's a pad for grabbing hot stuff or putting something down on your counter when it's hot. That's all it is. You go to Walmart and get that. But all we're going to do, we got this is our casting table. Now this mold, when it's ready, okay, we're going to take this mold and we're going to put it in our oven, okay, which I'm going to show you that in a second, okay, but the burnout oven is a homemade piece of equipment, and it's just like this. It's dead simple. But you want to get a vacuum pump from Harbor Freight. They got a single stage and a 2-stage. You get the 2-stage, okay, because you're going to need the 2-stage. A single stage pump will work for this what I call vacuum table right here. It'll work for that part, but you know, it won't work for this part, which is right here. All you got to do is look on eBay, and you can find you one of these, okay? They're 60 bucks, and all this is a pot. It's like a stainless steel cooking pot. It's basically almost what it is, but it's got a thick lid on the top, plexiglass real thick, and it's got a vacuum gauge on it. And it's got a hose and all the fittings, and that hooks right to your Harbor Freight vacuum pump. Okay, now, there you go. The vacuum pump's about 130 bucks. And that pressure pot's like 60 bucks, all right, and you're good to go. And then this little table right here, you build this thing for 30 bucks for everything. You know, and you can just use scrap wood, or you can go and buy some wood, but for 30 bucks you can build it. All right, now, so that's the main 2 things you're going to need. But what you do is you mix up your investment material, you dump it in that can, and then you take this can and you bring this can over and you set it right down into that tank. Turn the vacuum pump on, and it pulls all the air out of the investment plaster. I'm going to say plaster, but it's not plaster, it's investment. But it pulls all the air out of it, all right? And then, that's it. It's just dead simple. So then, as soon as you get the air out of it, you let it set for about an hour to 2 hours, and then you take that mold and you put it right in your kitchen oven, right in the house, and you turn the oven on to 220 degrees, and you set yourself a little bit of a aluminum foil pan below the mold to catch the wax, because the wax runs out of the mold, and you leave that in your oven in the kitchen for 2 hours at 220 degrees. Does that sound simple enough so far? It's simple, okay? That's all you do. Then after that, okay, then you're gonna come and you're gonna come and you're gonna come back out here, and we're gonna take and we're gonna put it in this burnout oven. All right, now this is our burnout oven. It's a homemade burnout oven, and what this is an old-timey hot plate with the wire wound coils on top. It's an antique, and it gets insanely hot. It has no control for the heat. It's got a switch that's on and off, and that's it. But this thing is insane when it comes to the heat that this puts out. These things get hot. So buy you an old hot plate like this, and they're antique, but you can get them. You can get them for anywhere from 15 to 30 bucks. Look on eBay, look in some junk stores, look around. You can find these things. But what I got up here on the top, I'll see if I can show you the bottom of this thing. That's kind of heavy. See this? This is just an old aluminum pot that I found on the side of the road, and I cut the bottom out of it, and I took some refractory cement. Okay, I mixed it up. You can mix it up. It's real cheap to make. I got a special mix that I'm gonna show you about later when we talk about building your furnace and everything, which I'm gonna show you that in a second. But you put some refractory around the inside of that. You know, you want to go about 3 inches thick or thicker if you can, but you know, that's okay, about like that. And then all you do, you turn that, you set your mold directly on that burner, okay? You set your mold directly on this burner, and then you go ahead and you put that over it, and then you take a piece of fire brick and put it on top for a lid. Okay, now that's your burnout oven. That oven right there will give you an absolutely 100% perfect burnout at exactly 5 hours of time. Okay, so that's all there is to it. 2 hours in your kitchen oven, and it's not going to smoke. You're not going to smell it. You're not even going to ever know the thing's in there, because at 160 degrees the wax starts dripping out, but it's not getting hot enough, near hot enough to reach a flash point to start smoking or to burn. So it's not going to do that. You won't even know it's in there. But now if you stick that mold in your oven and you turn that oven up past 300 degrees, you're going to have a house full of smoke. Don't do that. You know, I mean, you know, you just don't want to do that to your house oven that, you know, you're going to use it. But it's not going to hurt your oven, because there's nothing. There's no smoke, there's no smell, there's nothing but it's just a little bit of wax, and it'll drip right down in that aluminum foil there, pan that you got beneath the mold. Put it on the rack where it can just drip right out of the screw hole, and then you're good to go. All right, bring it out here, exactly 5 hours. Okay, now when you get your mold out of there, all right, well, it's going to be in there for 5 hours. But about 15 minutes before your 5 hour time period is up, you're going to come over here to your little homemade furnace, which is made out of a mixing bowl. This is a 10-quart mixing bowl. Okay, came from Walmart, cost 10 bucks. It got some refractory down in there. All right, now, right down in there is a little hole. And I got a crucible. And and it sits right in this hole, okay? So that hole right there is just big enough for that crucible to fit in. But you see right there, there's a piece of pipe. It's about 2 foot long, and on the end of that pipe, there's a Harbor Freight weed burner, okay? Part of it, and there's a hole drilled in the pipe, and that goes right in that hole, and it's soldered into that hole. And on the end of that pipe is a fitting for my air hose. And I run this furnace on 10 pounds of air. It'll run on almost nothing as far as fuel. And let me tell you, this furnace gets so hot, you won't believe how hot it gets. I cast a whole lot of bronze out here. And bronze is mostly copper, if you know. I cast what they call Aluma bronze, and it's beautiful. It looks, you buff it out, it looks like gold, but it's not gold. It's bronze, but it looks just like gold. And all it is copper. It's 95% copper and 5% aluminum, but it's a beautiful alloy. Okay, I'll have something included in the pictures that's made of bronze that I casted. But, so this furnace is all you need. Don't waste your money. Don't buy an electric furnace. Don't buy a big propane furnace. Don't waste your money. There's a lot to know about that as far as the right crucible you gotta get. I'm gonna cover all that. I'm going to cover the furnace and how you build it step by step on the furnace video. And I'm going to show you the furnace in action, doing the casting, and it's all going to be covered on that one video. But anyhow, back to what we're doing. So you got your mold, and it's in about 20 minutes before your 5-hour time period is up. You come over here and you put you some silver down in this crucible. And you turn the gas on, you light that up, you put a fire brick over it, and this thing is so hot. And I mean, in about 5 minutes, it'll melt down a full crucible of silver in about 5 or 6 minutes. It's crazy hot. I mean, and it's the best furnace, period. I don't care. I've built furnaces. I've built probably 10 or 15 variations of this, but this is the final one because the secret to this whole furnace is this burner and how this burner is configured and the way it works, because right blasting out of the end of that steel pipe is all that heat, and it's blasting right directly on that crucible, and it's got nowhere to go but directly on and into the crucible. There's nowhere else the heat can go. You lay a fire brick on top for a lid. But, so you melt your silver. So when your 5 minute time period, your 5-hour time period is up on your burnout, you just take your mold, and you bring it right over here, and you set it down. You pull that little valve on the bottom, turn your vacuum pump on, that's sitting right there. You got vacuum drawing through it, and you just take your crucible, and this thing is going to be almost white hot. I'm talking that. So you're dealing with extreme heat. You got to take every safety precaution there is when you're doing this. I'm gonna go through all that in the furnace video, but you're gonna take this crucible full of molten metal and you're gonna pour it onto that food can. And one, boop, and it's done. You pour it on there, set it back in here. Alright, and then you can keep this furnace hot. That will stay hot a long time. But that is all there is to casting jewelry. And you don't need, you see everything I got here is probably $300. We're not talking about the wax injector, because you don't even need a wax injector starting out. You can buy wax patterns and just start casting, but you can make them cheap too. You can make these silicone molds. You can go to Walmart and you can get a big metal syringe that they sell where they have the cooking stuff, okay? For grilling out and cooking out and stuff. It's for injecting stuff into your meat when you're smoking meat and stuff. It's a big metal syringe, but it's made out of metal, and you can just take get you an old crock pot and fill it full of wax, and take that syringe and draw some wax out of that crock. I used to do that a long time ago. That's what, the old man, he had that too. He had everything. He had wax injectors, but he'd have 6 or 8 people in that place. I mean, this old man made some jewelry now, and I mean, high quality stuff. But the jewelry we're gonna make with what we got right here, I promise you, it's just as nice as any other piece of jewelry you're gonna see anywhere else. And it's not the equipment. I'm telling you, the equipment doesn't have that much to do with it, because it's going to do the exact same thing. I mean, a burnout oven, those things can start at like $500 on up. Okay. Now, if you need for more production, like what I do, I got 2 other buildings on this property, and I got a big deck and a big back porch. And sometimes when I have people working, I'll just have them out there working, but they're working with exactly the same kind of equipment as what we just looked at. It's exactly the same. And I would never ever use any other furnace ever after all the years of messing around with this. I know that this furnace, that there is nothing any better. I mean, I'll show you. There is nothing that you're going to get that is better or easier or cheaper to build, because this furnace, I mean, $10 for the mixing bowl, piece of pipe. The most expensive thing is this weed burner right there on the end, weed burner. Part of one, the handle and the hose and all, $25 at Harbor Freight. But for under $100, you got a kick-ass furnace, and you're not ever going to buy crucibles again. I mean, most people don't know about crucibles. I'll show this crucible right here. See that? That is coated. I make a special coating. Alright, and I coat these. Let me see if I can find a new one. But I'm going to tell you, the inside of this, you got to glaze that, but that's glazed with borax. But the inside of that looks almost brand new. I've ran this at least 50 times already, at least. And I can tell you, this crucible will not go anywhere. This crucible will last me, I'm talking a long, this one might last forever the way it's been running, but I mix up this special coating. But let me show you. This is what it looked like brand new. Alright, that's a brand new crucible right there. But I mix this coating up, and I'm telling you, this coating, but you do not get a graphite crucible whatsoever. Any type of graphite crucible, don't buy that. This is not graphite. It's not clay or grog or whatever they call it. These crucibles, these are about $15 a piece. right, I'm gonna start rambling, and I don't want to ramble, all right, because I don't want to talk for hours on end because I can. But there's your setup. All right, now right down here, the end of this hose hooks to a propane, off your barbecue grill, 20-pound cylinder, will last forever running this furnace. This furnace doesn't use hardly any fuel at all. But you got your furnace, maybe $100. You got your casting table, probably about $30. Actually, $30. We'll build that. Then $60 for a vacuum tank, vacuum chamber on eBay. $150 max for your pump, and you're good to go. And then your oven, right there, your burnout oven. So there you go. Well, I really hope you found this interesting, and I hope you found it helpful. And I would highly appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to the channel, because I'm going to be teaching all of this. I mean, every day of my life, I come out here, and this is my work. This is what I do. I do this for a living. I work day and night. I mean, that's how I came up with the name Midnight Silvercrafters, because I'm out here at midnight, when everybody else is sleeping. I'm out here making jewelry. So, but you can make some really, really good money making jewelry if you learn casting and you learn stone cutting. I do stone cutting as well. I do everything. I do the camming and faceting, and I do it all, like, anything related to jewelry and that, I do. So, yeah, I'm going to be teaching all that. We're going to be making a lot of different jewelry. So please do subscribe and give me a thumbs up, hit that like button. That's going to really help me out. Make sure you hit that little bell, so that you'll be notified, because I'm going to be putting out videos every Sunday and every Wednesday. Well, thanks for watching. I'm glad you made it all the way to the end. I got a little surprise. Here's a little clip off of my furnace video, shot of me pouring a mold. So I hope you enjoy this. All right, I got my mold down, got the vacuum on. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna see if I can get it poured. You can see that it is hot. So when you're dealing with something that hot, be careful. You gotta go careful with this stuff. Alright. Now we're just gonna take it and dump it in. And there we go. We are in. Crucible back in. And we've just made about 10 parts. Some jewelry I've made over time. Hope you enjoy.